RMJ Movie Reviews back again with I don't remember what number it is. Other Black History Month review. Time for a sip. Now I'm fully invigorated and energized. So I said I was gonna do Higher Learning, the film directed by John Singleton from 1995, starring Omar Epps, Christy Swanson, Michael Rappaport, and Lawrence Fishburne. This was a very controversial movie at the time when it came out. Matter of fact, the only thing I can't stand about this DVD is they switched the cover. Why are they doing this with DVDs now, where they change the original cover art? I like the one the original cover art, which is actually like a Nazi swastika, black fist, power sign, and then the woman sign, and then there was like I think a peace sign on there too. I don't know why they changed it to this, which is just so boring looking, but I don't know, stupid. But either way, that was a very controversial movie at the time. Again, this is a movie from my teenage years. This film came out, I believe this is if I remember right. I think it was like in winter of 1995. I think it was January, if I remember right. But there was all this crazy stuff where I was actually, I was actually in the 7th grade when this film came out. I was 13 years old. And, there was all this stuff where, like, they were banning, which is totally hysterical now, but they were, like, banning this movie from theaters because people were getting wound up and they were fighting in the theaters and all kinds of crazy stuff, which, the present state of the world now, after The Dark Knight Rises, this is not restricted to certain intense topics, whatever type of films. You just see now that people actually go to the movie. They don't just fight anymore like they did back then. They actually go to the theater and kill you now. And it could be in a damn superhero movie, which is sad. And I'm going to relay that back to certain plot points in the movie. But Higher Learning deals with 3 college freshmen. Leak. He's this is just my description, y'all. I'm having fun. He's a brother from the hood, and then you got I think Christy is her name, who's a lily old happy blonde white girl from Orange County, and then you got Remy, who's kind of he's a poor old boy from Idaho, kind of a rock and roll heavy metal, kind of just throw on his jeans and his big old gas station looking boots. And he got kind of his stringy hair, and he just goes out and does his thing, very lonely guy. And the movie switches back and forth between the 3 experiences that they have as college freshmen at the fictitious Columbus University. Go figure that one. And also throughout this review, I'm going to relay certain points of my college experience, how I felt when I saw the film when I was 13 and looking at it now at 34. I always liked the film. I really enjoyed it. It was a packed house. I remember when I saw it. The movie was sold out. It played very well. Only thing was at the time, audience members it was a real rowdy crowd, I remember. So they were very, very immature, particularly on the scene where Kristen is sleeping with the guy and then sleeping with the girl. They were really immature on that stuff. Those are really the 2 things in the movie that I remember really got the audience to react the most, was the stuff with Kristen and Jennifer Connelly, the beautiful Jennifer Connelly, and the stuff with the Nazis. That was the stuff that the audience was just really, really reacting to. And of course the moment with Morris Chestnut's little cameo where it's revealed that his girlfriend is white. I remember the whole audience, when that happened, they were just like, oh, look at him, But it's just so funny how people get personal with these movies. But looking at it, like I said, I always liked Higher Learning. I thought it did exactly what it's supposed to do when I was 13 years old. All the moments I felt were powerful. And I really liked the movie. And I remember at the time, I was an avid movie buff. So I watched, we're going old school, y'all. I had watched Siskel and Ebert's review, which it was a split vote. Ebert, Roger, he gave it a thumbs up, and Siskel gave it a thumbs down. And in retrospect, I can really see, I still very much like the film. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 7. I wouldn't give it an 8 or a 9 or a 10, and I'll give you my reasons why. I think the very early portions of the movie pretty much ring true to real college life. Kind of you're going out and you're drinking all the time. You're meeting new friends. They're not really your friends, but you're getting to really know people. You room with people you don't like, then you end up going your separate ways. You argue. The stuff in the elevator with Kristen where she meets Malik and she puts her hands on her purse, very, very authentic. And then you got Regina King from 227. I'm going old school if y'all can remember that. But she was previously in Boys in the Hood and Poetic Justice. I'm sorry, this was John Singleton's third movie. And then you got Regina King and Kristen who room together and kind of, one's from the hood, one's from Orange County, and their interaction. And they have a very genuine friendship that I really liked. I really felt was touching, and you got Ice Cube who's kind of playing the super duper senior, which I in my college career was a super duper senior at one point too. I was a super duper senior. And, he's kind of like the older student. I mean, I'd probably say this guy's maybe 26, maybe, while the rest of these cats are like, probably 18, 19, or 20, And you got Lawrence Fishburne in it, who plays kind of the, I think he's supposed to be West Indian professor or something like that. Lawrence Fishburne is entirely too young for this part. And looking at the cast credits now, I realized that Lawrence Fishburne was exactly 2 years younger than me right now when he played that college professor in that film, which I just can't even imagine trying to play a role like that. I just can't even see it. But Lawrence Fishburne is good. I kind of have a thing against like actors doing accents, and I kind of think his accent is bad, but he gets away with it because he just rolls with it. You know what I mean? So it's almost like when Nicolas Cage and Peggy Sue got married, is Peggy, and all that kind of stuff. You just roll with it because the tone is set. That's what they're doing, so you roll with it. But Lawrence Fishburne is very good in the movie, and I really like the entire cast. You got a diverse cast of just all kinds of different ethnicities, and that's the thing that I thought was really cool about this movie, is the fact that you got a multicultural cast. I grew up in the suburbs of Cleveland. I don't call it but a middle class neighborhood. It was a middle class neighborhood, and it was very much multicultural. My high school was very much multicultural, so I just thought it was kind of cool to see this in a film. And like I said, those early portions of the movie I think ring very true. The stuff that happens with Kristen and the date rape, that's for real how it goes down in college, man. You know what I mean? Everybody gets drunk, and obviously when guys get drunk, and girls sometimes too, you get horny. You turn off, all your other senses go off, and you just thinking about getting it in. And you take a young girl, she'll say yes, and that happens too. It's like you clothes are off, the mission is ready to get going, and hey, did you strap up, and you're drunk, and you're just like, hey, I'm about to just go in, and it happens. Next thing you know, a rape has happened. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a punch you in the face, beat you down kind of rape, but the girl says no and you just keep going, that's a rape. That's authentically how it goes down. And kind of the earlier tensions in the part of the movie, the stuff with Malik and between his athletes and meeting Deja, you know what I mean, and the stuff with Remy where he sees the aftermath of Kristen's rape, and he's this awkward dude. Hey, you screwed her, right? She liked it, right? All those things are very true to people who come into these situations. Very young people at 19 or 20 going into this hodgepodge of different people from all over the place. This kind of stuff happens. I think where the movie, and even a lot of reviewers at the time even said, where the movie kind of short circuits is once kind of it forgets about everything else and it kind of goes the black verse neo-Nazi route, and it kind of gets over the top, overly melodramatic. And don't get me wrong, John Singleton directs those scenes, and all the actors act them very well. I mean, when Deja gets shot, it's a very powerful moment, and Omar Epps' reaction to it, with him being in shock and he's staring, he's sweating, he's got the blood on him, and she's coughing the blood up. That's a very strong moment. That moment still hits me very hard when I watch this film. And the fist fight that ensues and all that stuff. It's all over the top. But, and then with Remy's eventual suicide, which when I saw the film for the very first time, I had kind of two reactions to it. I kind of felt, this guy needs to pay for what he did because he killed some people. You know what I mean? But at the same time, there was that little part of me that kind of felt bad for the guy because he's pitiful. He's a pitiful, awkward, and it sounds like he had an abusive childhood too. So, you're dealing with a cat who, and John Singleton mentions this in the commentary, you're dealing with somebody who's a victim, low self-esteem, and John Singleton says this in the commentary, when you're dealing with somebody like that who has low self-esteem, they are very dangerous, and especially if you put them in a college situation like this, with people who are all young and they're drinking, and they would just disregard you, hurt your feelings or whatever. That could be that one guy on the edge. So I think the movie, and especially the way this movie ends now, it's sadly, back in 95, this part, that assassination, shooting people in the yard portion of the movie was only a once in a while thing. Now, unfortunately, it's an everyday thing. So that's what makes this part of the movie even really creepier and sadder when I watch it now. But that's kind of where the movie self-destructs. I think the very earlier portions were very real, with Kristen's rape, Omar Epps on the elevator, the girl grabbing her purse, the stuff with the students finding out they don't have enough money to pay for their college and all that. All that is real, and I think it kind of self-destructs. Another thing I kind of take issue with the film is how Ice Cube is kind of doing the introductions, where he kind of goes, that's south of the border, this the black hole, that's Disneyland, that's Chinatown. That is so totally unrealistic. And even at the time, and I tell you, digressing, I remember I had a tutor at that time, and my tutor was like about the same age as like these college students in the film. And I remember I loved the movie so much, me and him were talking about it, and he agreed too. At the time, I wish I could remember this guy's name, but I remember at the time that he said that college is not segregated like that. You know what I mean? Which I'm in total agreement with, because when I went to Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio, and when I went to a local community college in Cleveland, it is nothing like that. I mean, there's all groups of people who hang with each other on college. College campuses are multicultural. Unless you go to some place that's like far off on the lexicon, other side of the universe, college campuses are not that segregated. Even in 1995, they weren't that segregated like that. But I get that John Singleton was just trying to set up Columbus University for the film world of higher learning, which, if there was actually a campus like Columbus University in real life, I don't think I'd go. I wouldn't go. But I kind of took a lot of issue with that. And another thing I took issue with in the film is, and this is why I really like this film, Digressing, that just came out, a movie called Dope, which is kind of about teenagers and stuff, but I love how it shows a different facet of black life. I talked about that kind of stuff in my last review, but I kind of took issue with how I felt the characters were the three leads are one-dimensional. Malik is kind of a typical athletic, I hate to use the term angry black man, but that's kind of where he is. I mean, what happens later on in the story, it's understandable why he becomes angry, but I would have liked a little bit of diversity in his persona and his character than just being the athletic, cocky black dude. Kristen is just the blonde, kind of happy-go-lucky white girl from Disneyland. I took issue with that, and really, I will honestly say, out those three leads, the one who's the most layered is Remy. But that's because Michael Rappaport, I think, had the most experience of the cast. I think he had the most experience. Maybe Christy Swanson might have had a little bit more. But Michael Rappaport gives the most layered performance out of the three leads, because he really shows how Remy, he really has a clear how Remy evolved to what he became by the end of the movie. There's signs that it's already there, But you can see in the earlier portions of the movie that this guy is really trying, but he's awkward. He doesn't know how to get along with other people. You know what I mean? And then when Ice Cube and Busta Rhymes kind of taunt him, those are the beginnings of the screws getting loose. You know what I mean? Then the white guys at the party don't want nothing to do with him. They think he's awkward too. So then you got some brothers messing with him. Then you got some white boys messing with him. So he's stuck in the middle of nowhere. Nobody accepts him. He's out there reading his book. Cole Hauser comes up. And that's when things get out of control. You know, so I think he was the most layered and, in my personal opinion, profound performance. I'm sorry, y'all. Nerves kind of did something to my face. He had the most layered performance in the film to me in watching it now, because I'm not going to say this on camera, but I kind of just think that Omar Epps and Christy Swanson, in this particular roles, in this movie, I think their characters were one-dimensional. And according to John Singleton from the commentary, Tupac was supposed to have the role of Malik. Now, y'all, can we only imagine if Tupac would have had that role? Oh man, that the movie would have had a whole nother level of power to it. If you would have had Pac, Michael Rappaport, Cube, Cole Hauser, Lawrence Fishburne, Jennifer Connelly, man, that would have been a dynamite power cast right there, man. I mean, it wasn't to happen. Pac was too crazy at the time, so the studio didn't want to, Columbia didn't want to be bothered with him because he was too much of a risk. Rest in peace, Pac. I wish he would have got that movie, because I really think Pac would have took this movie to a whole nother level, you know, but it wasn't to be. But I really, and that's kind of the issue I took. I wish they could have been a little bit more layered. I kind of just, and I think there's little signs of it with Kristen. You know what I mean? I think there's little signs of it that Kristen, that she changes, because after her rape, you know, she gets confused about her sexuality. You know what I mean? She likes Jennifer Connelly, which is very understandable why she would like her, because even John Singleton says in the commentary, he said every dude on the crew was like hounded after Jennifer Connelly. And apparently, digressing, Christy Swanson had some beef with Jennifer Connelly, and I guess she didn't really like her that much. But that's probably only under the assumption that the guys probably liked her more than Christy Swanson. Which Christy Swanson is cute too. She's fine. That's the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer. If anybody remembers, that was a movie first. She was the star. And kind of, I just wish Malik would have been a little bit more layered. Digressing, going to my college experience, when I went to Dayton, you know, I'm a very laid-back person like I am on camera. And I remember, because a lot of the white folks that I grew up with back in Cleveland, I mean, of course, you know, I experienced racism, but it was very trickled out. I didn't experience, like, a lot of in your face, flat out, this is the moment where you know, fight or flight type of thing, until I went to Wright State in Dayton, which there are a lot of sick people down there, you know. But kind of watching the movie now is chilling, because a lot of some of those experiences in this film I did have when I went to Wright State University. I actually did. This is no bullshit for the camera. I actually did meet like a Nazi guy who was on campus at Wright State University, and he was handing out flyers. And I'll never forget, I left out of a math class because the math class from my community college didn't equal out to Wright State, so I had to retake it again there. And so either way, there was this guy, he handed me a flyer, but there's always people handing out flyers on college campuses, you guys know, and I turned it over and it said, "Negroes must die in fire." I thought it was a joke at first, and then when I turned around and looked, the Wright State police were like circling around this guy, and I was like, oh, this is like legit. You know, I had like an outer body experience, you know what I mean? But, I mean, it pissed me off, but I wasn't going to fight the guy, you know what I mean? I was a junior in college, almost a senior, you know what I mean? And I'm just thinking, like, you know, people were coming out of dance classes. People had shit to do. And, excuse me again, but this asshole is out on the college campus handing out bullshit while everybody else is trying to do something with their lives. So I was just like, whatever. And I think he ended up getting kicked off the campus. But I just had to tell that little story that when I watch Higher Learning now, there's certain things in this movie that are very, very, very true. But going back to the character Malik, I just wish he would have been more layered. You know what I mean? Because, and that's kind of that's why I like this new movie Dope that just came out. Is you kind of see different side of young black men. You know what I mean? Not all of us are athletes. Not all of us are cocky. You know what I mean? And not to say that there aren't brothers like that exist. There are a lot of brothers like that who exist, and that's cool. But I just would like in the film that we'd be a little bit more diverse in our character. Or even if you had another brother in the cast who was not the cocky athletic guy, and then you had Malik, and you had the two kind of showing their differences. That would have been cool too, but you know, that would have been a 3-hour movie. You know, so those are kind of my gripes. I think Michael Rappaport is the strongest out the three, and I kind of think in the supporting cast here is nuts. I mean, all these cats are, you know, a little bit older now. All these cats, I think, are like in their 40s now. But I mean, you had a dynamite, independent character actors here, all sprinkled throughout this cast. You seen the guy from Saving Private Ryan. You see the guy. He was on the TV show, I think, Third Watch, one of them NBC cop shows. The guy with the long hair. He was in there. I mean, it's just a dynamite cast here. And you know, Cole Hauser, who actually wings Hauser from Vice Squad, Ramrod, the killer pimp. This is his son who plays the head of the Nazi group, Scott. And if you can really look, you can see the similarities in the tone in their voice. They very much look alike. And Cole Hauser is very sinister in this movie. He's very powerful. I heard John Singleton said in the commentary he was only 18 when he did this film. And he really is very menacing, and he exerts a lot of... he has complete control over those other guys. He's very strong. And a funny thing is that all the guys who play the Nazis are Jewish. Go figure that. All those guys are Jewish. It just makes it so funny. But, you know, that kind of issues I have with Higher Learning. I just kind of feel the third act just kind of just gets overly melodramatic, and it could have dealt with the other issues. And I just felt like the two leads, you know, Omar Epps and Christy Swanson, I just think are too one-dimensional. You know what I mean? But I think really Michael Rappaport and Fishburne and all the supporting cast and just the various issues of what really happens in college life support those two. But I will give one thing. Christy Swanson on the rape scene and kind of her slow kind of, you know, fiddling around on the other side with girls and stuff. I think she's very good in those scenes. And I will say Omar Epps, when he's in shock after Deja gets killed, and him staring at her body in shock, and when Lawrence Fishburne has to hold him and he's kind of, you know, just losing it, which he would in real life. I think, you know, Epps shines through big time in those moments. Really, really, really powerful stuff. So, you know, I think I really enjoy Higher Learning. I think it, I do think that the film is not given enough credit. It's mostly kind of forgotten. You know what I mean? And I've seen some things on IMDb where I don't know what the IMDb rating is. It might be like 5 or 6 or something like that. But, I really think the movie really brings up a lot of valid points, a lot of valid issues. I just think it kind of loses focus, and it would have been nice if the two leads wouldn't have been so one-dimensional. You know what I mean? I just think they were too one-dimensional. But on the plus, it was very authentic in how it is on this college campus. You know what I mean? John Singleton says it in the commentary. You know, he said when he was at... I think he said he was at, I can't remember, the big film school in L.A. You know, he said he felt like he was around a bunch of closet fascists. You know what I mean? As they even started out with all the guys, you know, kind of all the white guys, and they're kind of going like this, like that. That's almost very similar to a, you know, Hitler type of situation. You know what I mean? But that was kind of how I felt a little bit too when I used to be in them college campuses down in Dayton. You know, and then even when I worked at this movie theater, I kind of met... excuse me, this is not, let me retract that statement. For people who I met at the movie theater and at Wright State who I was friends with, I'm not addressing you guys. I'm talking about the dirtbags I met. So yeah, I met some real dirtbags, scummy, deplorable human beings when I worked at this movie theater, Regal Cinemas. Just, but it was interesting. It was a good experience for me because you just realize that there are some people who just don't have the same upbringing as you. They just don't come from where you come from, and they just don't know how to react. They seriously don't know any better. They are ignorant, plain and simple. And ignorant is not knowing, so they're ignorant. Okay, that's RMJ's public service announcement for the day, and the G.I. Joe public service announcement. Higher Learning, underrated. I think people should give it another shot. Loses its way about halfway through, but I still think that it has some very interesting topics, very valid points, and I love the supporting cast, and I love the music selections too. Very diverse music. You know, you got Rage Against the Machines, you got Tony Tony Tony, which I love that song that plays on the Love Making montage. Good stuff here. It's a very, very 90s movie. So that's my review of Higher Learning. It ended up being a little bit longer, but I had a lot to say about this movie, and maybe some people should give it another look and give it another shot, despite its flaws. Yeah. Thumbs up the video. Subscribe to the channel. Share the video. And comment down below about Higher Learning. And even you guys tell me about some of your college experiences and kind of connect it to the film. Let's have a talk. Let's have a discussion. Higher Learning. My next movie review for Black History Month is going to be the 1991 underrated film entitled Hanging with the Homeboys, starring Dougie Doug and John Leguizamo. RMJ Movie Reviews. I'll see you soon, folks.